Welcome back now. With growing numbers ditching the steak for a plant-based diet, veganism is becoming a leading trend for 2018.
Far from clutching at any vegetable in sight, the array of dishes available to vegans has really increased. But how healthy is it? Joining us this morning to discuss is nutritionist Heather Leeson. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. Great.
Can we go back to basics and define exactly what a vegan diet is, first of all?
Vegan diet is no animal-based products whatsoever. So obviously no meat, no fish, also no dairy, no eggs, even foods like honey that are derived from animals.
And I'm hearing horrible rumours about potentially no wine or beer.
You're not joining that club.
There's a product in some, it's used to make wine and beer called isinglass from fish bladder, of all things.
Really?
So yeah, I think Guinness is free from isinglass and more brands are becoming vegan friendly.
Right,
yeah.
Okay, so if somebody was thinking about doing it, where do we start? Where do they start? They don't jump in with both feet. You're saying take it easy and...
Yeah, it is a commitment, and a lot of people do it from a moral perspective, which is great. Now, you can be a healthy vegan and a less healthy vegan, and I think probably all of us could be a little bit more vegan in terms of the planet, in terms of eating less meat. So a good vegan diet is full of vegetables. I'm always talking about eating more veggies. Fruit, nuts, seeds, and the vegetarian proteins like chickpeas, lentils, beans, peas. So they're all really good. And if you eat plenty of those, you're going to be reducing your risk of chronic disease, keeping your heart healthy, keeping your weight down, all of the rest. But of course, you can also be a junk food vegan, eating chips and white bread and all of the processed vegan foods like vegan cheese, which is just processed fat. So, you know, it does make sense if you're going to do it properly.
So one of the things that I suppose vegans need to be mindful of is some of the vitamins that they might become deficient in. Vitamin B12 is a big thing.
It is, yeah. And I suppose not everybody is cut out to be a vegan. We're all genetically different and it will not suit some people. And B12 is the one we think of straight away because you can only get that from animal products. A tiny bit in something like seaweed, in fortified products like nut milks, which I know you're a big fan of, Simon.
I can't get enough of the stuff, yeah.
But it is hard work. So, if you're a vegan, you need to look after your B12 level. Most of the vegans that we see in clinic would be supplementing B12. And if you start to feel tired, if you're even a little bit breathless, or you start to lose your memory, actually, we had a lady in clinic last year, she thought she had Alzheimer's. She had really, really severe vitamin B12 deficiency.
Really?
So they're the things to watch out for. That's just a blood test that your GP can do.
So we look at a vegan menu plan for a day, and you've a suggested vegan menu here, and I'd eat every one of the dishes.
Yeah, it does sound delicious.
Yeah.
So you start off with breakfast. What are we going for
Something like
breakfast?
porridge. And now you wouldn't be making it with normal milk, obviously, but you could make it with nut milk or make it with water and have coconut yogurt on top of it, which is giving you some healthy fats, and throw some nuts and seeds on top for protein. So that is not that different.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah, exactly.
So then to snack on around lunchtime, you're saying apples, walnuts...
Nut butter, oat cakes and nut butter. Hummus is another great one.
I'm in here now.
Hummus is fabulous for all of us, vegetarians, vegans as well. It's full of chickpeas, vegetarian protein, so that's great and really filling as well.
Reading your menu, I would argue that a lot of us are a tiny bit there anyway without realising it, because all those snacks that you just mentioned, the porridge that Heather mentioned, one or two slight changes in terms of ingredients, and it is a vegan dish.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to be that difficult. Now, if you take it to the nth degree, you really need to be spending a lot of time looking at labels, because little bits of, for example, dairy or egg or honey will slip into products, and you won't even realise that you use it so much until you have to do it out.
I do remember sitting having breakfast with a friend of mine in the States, and he's a vegan, and he was trying to order his breakfast. Yeah. And the amount of questions that he had to ask the waitress, does it have this in it, does it have that in it? It took him 15 minutes. Yeah. It's a real commitment.
It is a real commitment. It is a real
commitment. To be full on vegan. It's a commitment.
But that's interesting that you mentioned was the States, because I would think they would have been very sort of forward in terms of
Same guy
dietary
here.
acceptance.
I had breakfast with him here in Dublin, and in a place in Clontarf, and he had to quiz the waitress for about 10-15 minutes.
No, it is hard work. I guess it's a commitment. So if you want to do it, then know what you're getting into, because you are at risk of B12 deficiency, iron deficiency, very big risk of omega-3 deficiency. You have to work around that, so you have to know your way around a kitchen. The vegan diet is naturally high in things like whole grains and the lentils that we were talking about. They're high in something called phytates, and phytates are anti-nutrients, so they actually stop us absorbing minerals like zinc and calcium and iron.
So you may have to take a supplement.
Exactly, you have to be aware of what you're getting into, and you can sprout and you can ferment and do those things in the kitchen, but that's more work. I'm not saying don't do it, just know what you're getting into.
How are we as a society in this country? Are we accepting of veganism in terms of Simon's
Yeah,
pal
it's a frown
going
on.
out and about, or
It's a
are people?
challenge. It is a challenge. I mean, we've come a
they
long
understand
way.
it?
There
Yeah.
are vegan cafes, and a lot of places will have
Yeah.
vegan dishes. But again, not every restaurant or cafe will understand what veganism is. So they might still put a little bit of dairy in something. And I think you have to be very careful if that's important to you.
I love the idea of your suggestion for lunch, an Indian lentil soup.
That's
That sounds
gorgeous.
fabulous.
That is fabulous. Even if
With a
you're not a
sourdough bread.
vegetarian or
Yeah.
vegan, and it's really filling as well at this time of year. And you've got things like coconut milk, spinach,
Yeah.
and tomato in there. And it's great if you are watching the meat. If you eat lots of vegetables and fruit, they've got vitamin C that helps you to absorb iron from things like lentils, where it can be a little bit harder to get your iron. So, yeah,
And a
eating
rice
the-
sourdough bread with it, which is gorgeous.
Yeah, gorgeous.
I think that food writers are being extremely sort of artistic and creative with their books as well. One of
Yeah.
our researchers during the week, Sinead, was telling us that she actually would cook, and she's not a vegan, from
Yeah.
a vegan cookbook
Yeah.
on regular occasions, and her kids love the food. Dishes like what you just mentioned there, Simon.
I think there's great lessons to take from it.
Yep.
You know, as you've said here many
Yeah.
a time, you know, we need more vegetables, we
Yeah.
need more seeds and nuts in our diet.
Yeah.
The main course then, dinner. Thai tofu and vegetable curry with whole grain rice. Now,
I
Yeah.
like tofu.
you'd have
Yeah,
to sell
people
that one to
don't.
me now.
There you go.
This tofu, is
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I always thought tofu was white. This has obviously been treated and
So
seasoned
that
and
is a
spiced. or-
smoked tofu. That's going to be nicer than people think of tofu as a white blobby stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is a totally different animal, much nicer. You can just stir fry that with a few vegetables, and it's got really a lovely smoky taste. You get all sorts of different flavoured tofu. Now, probably a health food store buy. Some of the better supermarkets will have it, but if you're going to be a vegan, you're going to know your local health food store
And
anyway.
this has
I think.
almonds and sesame seeds as
Yeah,
well.
and it's really tasty. You can get all sorts of different flavours, and you can get fermented tofu as well, which is even better, and it's just easier to use.
Can we have a couple of a glance at a couple of the other dishes that you brought in?
Falafel. Now, who doesn't like falafel?
Falafel.
Great for kids as well.
Love them.
They're just chickpeas, and you can heat those up and throw them into a pitta, for example, with some hummus, and that
Very
is
good.
really good for kids. And I would say if you are bringing up kids as a vegan, that's something that you do need to be looking for deficiencies there. The risk groups are babies, kids, and pregnant women, because there you may be at risk of the deficiencies that we mentioned, and that has serious
They're
consequences.
more of an impact.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Be informed.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Heather.
Pleasure.
And we never got to the vegan chocolate.
Don't worry,
There is
Don't worry,
vegan
we'll-
chocolate.
It's open
Brilliant.
down a minute.
Thanks so much.